My mother-in-law hidden the fact that my wife slept with my own brother behind my back. After the DNA test proved the baby wasn't mine, I evicted the whole family and left them to be homeless. My mother-in-law knew my wife was sleeping with my brother for 11 months. She knew the baby wasn't mine. She sat at my dinner table, ate food I cooked, smiled at me, and said nothing. When the DNA test came back, I didn't just file for divorce. I evicted all of them. My wife. My mother-in-law. Out of the duplex I own. Gave them 30 days. They used 27. Let me tell you how a $79 DNA kit destroyed 3 relationships and left the people who lied to me splitting rent on a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture. My name is Orion Price. 35. Electrician. Licensed master. Own my own business. 6 employees. 2 service vans. I built everything I have with my hands in 14-hour days and the kind of patience that comes from growing up with nothing and deciding you'd never go back. My wife was Celeste. Together 7 years. Married 4. She was a dental hygienist. Good job. Good income. We split everything 50-50 except the duplex. The duplex was mine. I bought it when I was 27. Before Celeste. A 2-unit property on Winslow Street. I lived in 1 unit. Rented the other. When Celeste and I got married, I moved her into my unit. When her mother Faye's landlord sold her building 2 years ago, I let Faye move into the rental unit. Free. No lease. No rent. Because Celeste asked and I said yes because that's what I did. I said yes to everything Celeste asked because I loved her and I thought love meant generosity without limits. Faye moved in with 2 suitcases and a cat named General. Within a month she'd redecorated the unit with furniture I helped carry up the stairs. Within 2 months she was coming over for dinner 3 times a week. Within 3 months she had a key to our unit because Celeste said it was easier. Easier for who? I should have asked. Didn't. My brother Kendrick is 32. 3 years younger. We were close growing up. Same crew. Same high school friends. I got him his first job on an electrical crew when he was 19. He wasn't built for the trade. Too impatient. Couldn't sit with a problem long enough to solve it. Quit after 8 months. Bounced to sales. Then bartending. Then a warehouse. Then back to sales. Kendrick was charming. The kind of charming that works on everyone for about 6 months before they realize there's nothing underneath it. Surface energy. Good first impression. No follow-through. He started coming around more after Faye moved in. Sunday dinners expanded. Celeste would cook. Faye would bring wine. Kendrick would show up with a bottle and a story and that laugh he has that makes people forget he owes them money. I noticed small things. Celeste laughing differently when Kendrick told jokes. Longer eye contact. She started wearing perfume on Sundays. She never wore perfume. I mentioned it once. She said, I bought it for fun. Don't make it weird. I didn't make it weird. I made it quiet. Filed it. Moved on. Because I trusted her and trust was the one thing I didn't have tools for. I could fix a 200 amp panel in the dark. I couldn't fix a feeling I didn't have the language for. 9 months ago Celeste told me she was pregnant. We were in the kitchen. She handed me the test. 2 lines. I grabbed her. Lifted her off the ground. We'd been trying for a year and a half. She'd done blood work. I'd done the uncomfortable cup at the clinic. Everything checked out. We were just waiting for timing. Timing arrived. Or so I thought. I told everyone. My crew. My clients. My mother who lives in New Mexico. Faye was ecstatic. She cried. She said, I'm going to be a grandmother. This is the happiest day of my life. I bought a car seat the next day. Graco. $189. Installed it in my truck before the first trimester was over. My foreman Holt said, that's aggressive. I said, I've been waiting for this my whole life. I'm not waiting on a car seat. Celeste went to every appointment. I went to every appointment. Except one. The 20-week anatomy scan. A Tuesday. I had a commercial job that couldn't be rescheduled. A hospital rewire. Code violations. Inspector coming Thursday. Celeste went with Faye instead. That appointment is where everything started unraveling. Not that I knew it at the time. I found out later. Much later. Through a phone I wasn't supposed to see. The baby came 6 weeks ago. A boy. 7 pounds 4 ounces. I was in the delivery room. Cut the cord. Held him first. Named him after my grandfather. Jasper. I looked at Jasper and felt something I'd never felt before. Complete. Like every wire I'd ever pulled and every panel I'd ever wired and every hour I'd ever worked was building toward this moment. A boy. My boy. My name. My blood. Except he wasn't. 3 weeks after Jasper was born, I was cleaning the house. Celeste was asleep. Baby was asleep. I was doing laundry, sorting through the bedroom closet, and I found a bag I didn't recognize. Small. Shoved behind her winter coats. Inside the bag was a phone. Not her regular phone. A second phone. Prepaid. The kind you buy at a gas station. I turned it on. No passcode. 47 text messages. All between Celeste and Kendrick. Starting 14 months ago. 3 months before she told me she was pregnant. The first text from Kendrick said, "Last night was incredible. When can I see you again?" Celeste's response, "Wednesday. He has a job in Fairfield. Won't be back until 7. I read all 47 messages. Took me 22 minutes. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't water. I felt that valve thing people describe. Something closing. Permanently. The messages laid out the entire timeline. 14 months. Not a fling. Not a mistake. A parallel relationship running underneath my marriage. They met at Faye's unit. Celeste would go downstairs to visit her mother. Kendrick would already be there. Faye's apartment was the meeting point. Message 23. Celeste to Kendrick, Mom knows. She saw you leave this morning. She promised not to tell Orion. Message 24. Kendrick to Celeste, she cool? Message 25. Celeste to Kendrick, she says she just wants me to be happy. She just wants me to be happy. Faye. My mother-in-law. Living rent-free in my duplex. Eating dinner at my table. Watching me install a car seat for a baby she knew might not be mine. And her contribution was she just wants me to be happy. Message 31. October. 1 month before Celeste told me she was pregnant. Celeste to Kendrick, I think I'm pregnant. Timing could be either of you. Kendrick, what do you want to do? Celeste, tell Orion it's his. Get the DNA test after. If it's yours, we figure it out then. Kendrick, and if it's his? Celeste, then we stop. And no one ever knows. She planned it. Calculated. If the baby was mine, the affair would end quietly. If the baby was Kendrick's, they'd figure it out later. Either way, I was the last to know. The one whose role was to believe whatever version they decided to hand me. Message 38. January. 20-week appointment. The one I missed. Celeste to Kendrick, Mom came with me today. She asked the doctor about early paternity testing. Doctor said blood test at 10 weeks is 99%. I didn't do it. Too scared. Faye took her to the appointment. Faye asked about paternity testing. Faye was actively involved in managing this secret. Not a bystander. A participant. Message 41. March. 2 months before Jasper was born. Faye to Celeste. This was on the prepaid phone. Faye had the number. Faye, have you decided what to do if it's Kendrick's? Celeste, I don't know. Orion would die. Faye, then don't tell him. Raise the baby together. Kendrick can be Uncle Kendrick. Nobody has to know. Nobody has to know. That was Faye's solution. Raise another man's child in my house. Let Kendrick play uncle at Sunday dinners while I changed diapers and worked 14-hour days thinking I was a father. Nobody has to know. I put the phone in my truck. Drove to a 24-hour pharmacy. Bought a DNA kit. $79. Home DNA. Swabbed Jasper while he slept. Swabbed myself. Sealed the envelope. Dropped it at FedEx at 11:43 p.m. Results take 5 to 7 business days. I waited 6. During those 6 days I acted normal. Cooked dinner. Changed diapers. Went to work. Came home. Kissed Celeste goodnight. Held Jasper. Read to him even though he's 3 weeks old and can't understand a word. Because if the test came back and he was mine, I wanted those 6 days to still count. Day 6. Email. Subject line, your home DNA results are ready. I opened it in my truck. Parked behind the shop. Alone. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Not 50%. Not inconclusive. 0. Jasper is not my biological son. I sat in that truck for 45 minutes. Engine off. Windows up. Staring at a number on a screen that erased everything I thought my life was. Then I called my lawyer. Rowan Kemp. Did my business incorporation. My property contracts. My insurance disputes. Knew me for 8 years. I said, Rowan. My wife's been having an affair with my brother. The baby isn't mine. I need a divorce and I need to evict both my wife and her mother from my duplex. He said, both units? I said, Celeste is in Unit A with me. Faye is in Unit B rent-free. No lease. No written agreement. They both go. He said, Faye has no lease? I said, nothing written. Verbal agreement. She's been there 2 years. He said, in this state, verbal tenancy with no lease requires 30-day written notice. I can have both notices ready by morning. Divorce petition will take slightly longer. Maybe 48 hours. I said, do all of it. He said, Orion. Are you sure about Faye? She's elderly. I said, Faye knew about the affair. She helped hide it. She suggested raising my brother's baby as mine without telling me. She was using my property as the meeting point. She's not an innocent bystander. She's a co-conspirator living rent-free in my building. Rowan went quiet. Then he said, Notices by 9 a.m. Divorce by Thursday. I went home that night. Normal. Dinner. Dishes. Put Jasper down. Celeste asked me about my day. I told her about a job in Bridgeport. She smiled. Said, "You work too hard." I said, "Someone has too." She didn't catch the edge. Or she did and ignored it. Either way, the last normal night of her life passed without her knowing it was the last. Next morning. 9:14 a.m. Rowan's courier delivered 2 envelopes to the duplex. One to Unit A, one to Unit B. Celeste and Faye received them simultaneously. I was at a job site. My phone rang at 9:22. Celeste. She said, "What is this?" "What is this, Orion?" I said, "It's a 30-day notice to vacate. And divorce papers. Both self-explanatory." She said, "You can't do this. This is my home." I said, "It's my duplex. Your name isn't on the deed. Isn't on the mortgage. Isn't on any document connected to that property. You're a tenant. And your tenancy is being terminated." She said, "Why? What happened? Talk to me." I said, "Check your winter coats. Behind them. Small bag. Phone inside. Then you'll know what happened." She went quiet for 8 seconds. I counted. She said, "Orion. Please. Let me explain." I said, 47 messages. 14 months. Message 31 where you told Kendrick you'd tell me the baby was mine. Message 38 where your mother asked about paternity testing. Message 41 where your mother said nobody has to know. There's nothing to explain. 30 days. Clock started. She was crying. I hung up. Faye called 4 minutes later. I answered because I wanted her to hear this directly. She said, "Orion. Sweetheart. Let's talk about this. You're upset. You have every right to be. But evicting me? I'm 63 years old. Where am I supposed to go?" I said, "Faye. You knew Kendrick was sleeping with my wife. You let them use your apartment. You asked a doctor about paternity testing. You suggested raising his baby as mine. You looked me in the face for 11 months and said nothing. You ate at my table. You used my washer and dryer. You lived rent-free in my building while helping my wife betray me. You're not a victim. You're an accessory. 30 days. She said, "I was trying to protect my daughter." I said, "You were trying to protect your free housing. If you cared about Celeste, you would have told her to stop. Instead you helped her plan. 30 days. Don't call me again. Go through Rowan." I blocked her. Kendrick. I saved him for last. Called him at noon. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, bro. What's up?" I said, "I found the phone." Silence. I said, 47 messages. I read every one. I know about the 14 months. I know about the baby. I have the DNA test. Jasper isn't mine. He's yours. Kendrick said, "Orion. Listen. I can explain." I said, "You have 10 seconds to say something that doesn't start with 'it just happened' or 'we didn't mean to.'" He used 7 of those seconds in silence. Then he said, "I'm sorry." I said, "You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Don't contact me. Don't contact Celeste through me. If you want to be a father to your son, hire a lawyer and file a paternity claim. But you do it through Rowan. Not through me. I'm done." He said, "We're brothers." I said, "We were brothers. Now we're strangers who share a last name. And even that I'm considering changing." I hung up. Blocked him. My mother called from New Mexico that evening. Celeste had called her. Crying. Begging for intervention. Mom said, "Orion. What's happening?" "Celeste says you're divorcing her and evicting her and her mother." I said, "Celeste slept with Kendrick for 14 months. Jasper isn't my son. Faye knew and helped hide it. I'm removing all of them from my life and my property." Silence. Mom said, "Kendrick? Your brother Kendrick?" I said, "Yes." Mom said, "That boy. That stupid, selfish boy." She went quiet for a minute. Then she said, "What do you need from me?" First person who asked what I needed instead of telling me what I should do. I said, "Nothing. Just don't take their calls." She said, "Already done. I'm blocking Kendrick's number tonight. And if Celeste calls me again, I'll tell her the same thing. You don't betray my son and expect me to mediate." I said, "Thank you, Mom." She said, "Don't thank me. That's the minimum. That's what a parent does. I'm sorry she did this to you." Day 26. Celeste and Faye hadn't moved. Celeste was still sleeping in the bedroom. I'd moved to the couch in Unit B, Faye's unit, which was technically mine. Faye was sleeping in Faye's bedroom. Musical chairs in a duplex owned by the man they betrayed. I called Rowan. "They haven't started packing." He said, "Have you served a formal reminder?" I said, "Serve one today. Add a line about filing for eviction on day 31 if the property isn't vacated." Served at 2 p.m. Celeste read it at the kitchen table. I know because the courier confirmed delivery and I had the Ring camera footage. She called Rowan directly. He told me about it. She said, he can't really do this. We have a baby. Rowan said, the baby is not my client's biological child. The property is solely owned by my client. There is no lease. There is no marital claim to the property because it was purchased 3 years before the marriage and is titled solely in his name. The 30-day notice is legally valid. If you don't vacate by the date specified, my client will file for eviction and you will have a court-ordered removal on your record. She said, where are we supposed to go? Rowan said, that's not a question for your husband's attorney. Day 21. Celeste's friend showed up. Brianna. Knocked on my door at 8 p.m. She said, Orion. I know what Celeste did was wrong. But she's a new mother. She has nowhere to go. Faye's on a fixed income. Can you give them more time? I said, she had 14 months to tell the truth. She had 11 months of Faye's help. She had 47 text messages worth of planning. She had more time than anyone in this situation. 30 days is generous. Brianna said, she's scared. I said, I was scared too. When I sat in my truck at 11:43 p.m. reading a DNA test that said the baby I named after my grandfather isn't mine. I was terrified. Nobody knocked on my door to check. Brianna left. Day 18. Faye tried a new approach. She wrote a letter. Slid it under my door. 3 pages. Talked about her late husband. About being alone. About how she just wanted her daughter to be happy. She didn't apologize. Not once. 3 pages. 0 apologies. Just context. Explanation. The story of why she did what she did without ever calling it wrong. I photographed the letter. Sent it to Rowan. Filed. Day 14. Celeste started packing. I could hear boxes being taped through the shared wall. Faye was packing too. The duplex echoed with the sound of 2 women dismantling the life I'd given them. Day 11. Kendrick showed up. Stood on the sidewalk because he knew better than to step on the property. He called my number. Still blocked. He called Rowan. Rowan called me. Your brother wants to know if he can see the baby before they move out. I said, he can file a paternity claim and request visitation through family court. That's the legal path. I'm not facilitating informal access to a child whose existence was hidden from me for 9 months. Rowan relayed it. Kendrick left. Day 7. Celeste asked through Rowan for one conversation. Face to face. 10 minutes. She said she needed closure. Rowan called me. She wants 10 minutes. I said, give her 5. She came to Unit B, sat on the couch. I stood by the door. Same energy as every confrontation in this story. Standing. Ready to leave. She said, I know I can't fix this. I know what I did. I just need you to know that I did love you. I wasn't pretending the whole time. I said, you loved me and slept with my brother for 14 months. You loved me and planned to pass his baby off as mine. You loved me and let your mother orchestrate the cover-up. That's not love, Celeste. That's management. You managed me. For 14 months. Told me when to work and where to be so you could schedule around my life with my brother. She said, it wasn't like that. I said, message 31. Tell Orion it's his. Get the DNA test after. Those are your words. From your phone. That's exactly what it was like. She said, what about Jasper? I said, Jasper is Kendrick's son. Kendrick can be his father. File the paternity claim. Put the right name on the birth certificate. Give that boy the truth I never had. That's the only decent thing left to do. She said, you don't want to see him? That one landed. I won't pretend it didn't. I said, I held him first. I named him after my grandfather. I cut the cord. For 3 weeks I was his father. And then I found out none of it was real. Every memory I have of my son is a memory of someone else's child. Do you understand what that does to a person? She didn't answer. I said, your 5 minutes are up. She left. Day 3. Moving trucks. Both units. Faye had hired movers. Budget. $400. I know because she asked Rowan if I would cover it. Rowan said no. Day 1. Celeste's unit was empty by noon. Faye's unit was empty by 4 p.m. They turned in keys to Rowan's office. Rowan called me at 4:47 p.m. Both units vacated. Keys received. Property is clear. I said, where did they go? He said, 1-bedroom apartment. Faye and Celeste together. Across town. $1,100 a month split between them. I said, and Kendrick? He said, no information on Kendrick's involvement. He hasn't filed a paternity claim. Of course he hasn't. Because Kendrick doesn't finish things. Doesn't follow through. Doesn't show up when it costs something. He showed up for 14 months of secret afternoons but can't show up to claim his own son. I walked through both units that evening. Empty. Clean enough. Faye had left general scratching post in Unit B, forgot it or couldn't fit it. I put it on the curb. I stood in Unit A. My unit. The bedroom where I'd installed the crib. The crib was gone. Celeste took it. The wall had a mark where the crib had been. A scuff. Small. The kind of mark a baby's furniture leaves when it's pushed against paint. I stared at that scuff for a long time. Then I painted over it. That was 3 weeks ago. Both units are empty. I'm renovating Unit B, new paint. New fixtures. Listing it for rent. $1,450 a month. Market rate. What I should have been charging all along instead of letting gratitude masquerade as rent policy. The divorce is proceeding. Celeste isn't contesting. Her lawyer told Rowan she just wants it over. Rowan said, then we agree on something. Kendrick has not filed a paternity claim. Has not called. Has not texted. Has not shown up. 3 weeks since eviction. Zero contact from the man whose son carries my grandfather's name. Last week my foreman Holt asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm painting a unit. He said, that's not what I asked. I said, I know. But it's the only answer I have right now. I'm painting a unit and I'm going to work and I'm sleeping in a duplex that's quieter than it's been in 2 years. And some days that's enough. And some days it isn't. But the days keep coming either way. He said, the car seat's still in your truck? I said, no. Returned it. $189. Store credit. Bought a new panel box. He said, that's the most electrician thing I've ever heard. Last night I sat on the back steps of Unit A. Where Celeste and I used to sit on summer nights. Where Faye would bring wine and Kendrick would bring his laugh, and I thought I was the luckiest man alive because I had a wife and a family and a baby on the way and a building I owned and a business I built. All of it was a set. Props. Scenery. And the people I trusted most were performing a play I didn't know I was in. The duplex is mine. The business is mine. The truck is mine. The tools are mine. Jasper is not mine. And the people who decided that for me are gone. 30 days. $79 DNA kit. 47 messages. 0% paternity. And the only thing left in Unit B is a scratching post on the curb that nobody came back for.